Hi everyone, my name is Betty and welcome to this space. I wanted to share with you guys why, in case you are new or if you're returning, you have seen like a change in my channel. So I want to share with you guys where I've been and why. So if you are new, I hope you stick around and yeah, for more future faithful videos on reading the Bible. So I want to share why I've been reading the Bible and how I came about reading the Bible. And I wanted to share this video because I plan to make more videos on helpful tips for reading the Bible for new believers or for people who are new into reading the Bible. And the reason why is because when I started reading it, I felt like all these feelings and confusion and doubt and insecurity about reading the Bible, and in some way intimidated as well. So I want to reach out to those who are feeling like that so that they can stay within the Word and feel motivated to come to the Word on a daily basis. But in order to get there, I feel like I needed to share my background a bit, and I'm not gonna go into big depth of it, but I'm just gonna go into like how I came about reading the Bible, so that anybody is out there that is feeling the same or comes from the same background, you don't feel as lost or insecure or alone in this. So yeah, how do I share this? This is so weird. I never shared my beliefs or anything. Feel a little bit weird, but okay. So I grew up knowing of God. I grew up in a religious and I grew up in a traditional religion. I grew up knowing of God and knowing of what was expected to me to do and to things that I had to like meet as per my religion. And I never felt connected to God. I always had, as a little girl, that when I started going to church, as far as I remember, I would go to church when I was very little. And I love going to church. I love going to church and I loved singing, but I never got the sermons, probably because I was too little to get it. But I what I did get was the singing. But I really got into the singing, so then I would like going so that I can just sing, and then I would do my own prayers while I was sing or during the sermon. And but I would never understand, and I grew up going to Spanish churches, and I didn't understand anything. And growing up, and then eventually got to a point where we stopped going to church, but we still followed what we had to follow. And they call it like kind of like the criteria for that specific religion, I feel like. And but we stopped going to church, and then I would went on going to church as an adult. Like when I was in college, I would still go to church with some friends, either in college or like outside of college, but I still never felt connected. And then it came to a point in my life where I started doubting because I felt like that I didn't know who I was praying to, and I didn't know who this God that everybody talked about was, and I couldn't relate. I think in total there were 3 times in my life where I came across a Bible to actually read it, but I failed. I do remember at one point in college, and I think all these times were in college. I do remember having a small Bible when I did my first communion, and I would go and get in my bed and I would try to read it. And it was in Spanish, and I would try to read it and I would try to pray about it. And I grew up praying a lot, and maybe my family didn't know because I would do a lot of my praying in secret. Sometimes I would go and hide in the restroom and pray. And then I would pray at night when I would go to sleep because I couldn't sleep. So I would pray a lot. But then when went into college, I kind of got very distracted and very hopeless in prayer, and I kind of forgot about it. And then through a friend, I happened to acquire a Bible, and I think it was given to me in Spanish. And I started reading it, and I could never get past Genesis. And no matter how much I tried, nothing seemed to get into my head, and nothing seemed to resonate, and nothing seemed to make sense. and I could just never go past it. The 3 times that I picked up a Bible in my life, I couldn't get past Noah's Ark. I was just too distracted by what was going around me that I didn't have the desire or motivation to stay focused in the Word. And that all changed. And as since I was little, I always desired to have a religious family that was surrounded by faith, because I always saw families, or I always saw religion as something that I wanted in my life, and that's something that I wanted in my family. And once I got married, I felt like I wasn't doing that, and it got to a point when I ended up having my son, who is now 2 years old. And I realized that I still wasn't there where I wanted to be. And I've always seen throughout my life like families that were faith based and very focused on God and Jesus. And I would desire that. So throughout my life, I always saw people who were either very religious or very faith focused on God, this happiness and this joy. And I felt that in order for me to have like a happy family and a perfect family, that I needed to have God in my life. But I never found myself seeking God until last year in October of 2019. I feel like we were at a good state on our marriage, but I felt like I wanted to know who God was. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like we were actually surrounded by people who are very faith focused on God. And it wasn't really influenced by them because we have already known them for a couple of years, I think 2 to 3 years, I believe. So it wasn't like they were feeding it onto us. But I happened to meet one person who I felt like we were we got connected right away. And suddenly on our first time, we started talking about God. And it really surprised me because I have never talked about God ever in my life with anybody on the first like conversation that I meet someone. And with this person, it just felt like I knew her forever, and we're just talking about God. And then like after I left her house, I was very like motivated, and I was like, you know what? I really need to know who it is that I'm praying to. I really need to know who this God is. And I really need to know who is this, like, is this even real? Like, what is this that everybody seems to be so in peace and happy and like joyful about? I was just like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And I, at points in my life, I actually felt it was just all made up. And at points in my life, I felt that it was just all made believe and fake. And with the Bible, I was a bit scared in a way because I know I had tried to read it before and I couldn't get past Noah's Arks. And I felt that if I needed to actually get a Bible myself and spend money on it and take more value in it, I guess, because I knew that I was spending money on it, and tell these people that were in my life as a way to what is it called, keep me accountable, and to validate, I guess, in a way that I was reading, and so that I can make myself sure that I was still reading the Bible daily. Like if they were gonna ask me questions, even though they weren't, but I felt like, okay, they're gonna ask me questions, I need to know what they're gonna ask me, and I need to know the answers. So I started reading I ended up getting this Bible at Barnes and Noble's like after 2 weeks of trying to like figure out what I wanted. And me, like, I like pretty stuff, so I had to get something that spoke to me, like as far as like colors and stuff, like, oh, this is so pretty, and then there's like my colors and everything. But besides this, like, this doesn't really matter. What matters is that you spend time in God's word. And I picked this up and I started reading in the month of October. I started reading Proverbs, and Proverbs has, I believe it has, what, 31 or 30? 31 chapters, the book of Proverbs. And I felt that it was perfect for the month of October because October has 31 days. So each day I would read a Proverbs, usually at night. And I started reading it with my husband, and I think it was in the middle of it, that, or right away, as soon as I read, and I still know like it's Proverbs 3:5. As soon as I read, well, the first chapter, I was just like, oh my God, this is like so true. How we get so involved in our own understanding, and how we think that we're always right, and that nobody else can like get you down from whatever it is that you believe and you think. And I felt that when I got into like Proverbs 3 verse 5, which is, I'm gonna read it word for word. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. When I read that, I was just like, you know what? I need to get down out of my stubbornness, because I am so stubborn, and I need to stop thinking and stop doubting of who God is, and start believing and open up my heart and get his word in me, so that I can really take it in and soak it and really know who this God is. And as I kept reading, I was just, my mind was just like so mind blown. It was just my eyes, my heart, everything just felt like it was just so opening to God, that everything was just making so much sense to me. And and I did not want to get emotional, and I didn't think I was going to get emotional. As I started reading, I started realizing, like, all my life, I had so many questions to God. I had so many unanswered prayers that I had spent and I had spilled my heart into for a long time. It was just so awakening and so, I don't know, so undescribable. I remember feeling so much joy out of reading, and I remember being like this, where I was just like, wow, like, I can't believe all these answers were here all this time, and I can't believe I questioned God for so long. And it was like until one day that we would read Proverbs together with my husband. I would read it together with my husband whenever he was in town, and we would discuss it. And I remember one day just coming to him and telling him how I was feeling. And it was something like this, something telling him, I'm like, man, like, I can't believe all of this, and this is how I'm feeling. And it's just so weird, because I feel that I am being, like, I definitely took my pride wall off of me, and I started being more vulnerable and more kind to my husband. And more, I don't know, like, there was things that always held me back, like, I didn't want to give it my 100%, and that would hold him from giving 100%, so we wouldn't accomplish the marriage that we wanted, because we were both holding back. And as I kept reading, I noticed that, like, little by little, bricks were taken off my wall, and I was becoming this person that I always wanted to be. And my husband was starting to see that, and he was starting to compliment me and tell me certain things, and I was just like, don't get too excited. It was like little things. And then I would do it without the intention of doing it, or without the intention of I don't know why my camera is like kicking me off after each 10 minutes. I don't know where I left off, because I was talking already for a while, but I actually got very emotional, so I think that didn't get recorded. But anyway, so I was talking, one day, yeah, I just came and, like, I just started to spill out my heart to my husband, and started telling him, man, like, this is just so uplifting. This is giving me so much hope. Like, now I know, like, all this time that I thought I was alone in my life, I wasn't. For the majority part of my life, I felt alone, and I felt lonely in this world, even though I was surrounded by a lot of people throughout my life. And throughout my life, there was always groups of people that I was always surrounded by, but I always felt alone. No matter the friendships I had, I always felt alone. And when I was reading one day, I was just like, oh my God, like all this time, I was never alone. God was always with me, because if He wasn't, then I wouldn't be here to this point today. I feel like there was many times, and I feel like there was a lot of darkness in my life. Um, like, because I was always alone, and it was probably because I was doubting God, and I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know what to do for a lot of part in my life. Like I knew like what career, and I knew certain things, but I didn't know like spiritually what. Like I was always seeking spiritually how to get more spiritually connected with myself, and those things would just work for the meantime that I was doing it, and then afterwards it just wouldn't, like it would fade. And I just like gave up on those things. And then so yeah, so I don't know, I got lost from this thing being cut off. And so yeah, so after reading Proverbs, like it was just like a very eye-opening and very touching to me, knowing more about God myself by reading His word, and realizing that this is like a Bible is like an inspiration of Him and His words and what He said to people to document, so that it could be shared with the rest of the world, so that we can learn what He wanted to tell us and what He wanted to speak to us through His words. I feel like this video went way off now. It was supposed to be just like a 5-minute video on how I started reading the Bible. But there you go. I started reading the Bible last October 2019. And after Proverbs, I just kept reading and kept reading. And I kept reading. I went into reading the gospel, and then I kept reading through the whole New Testament. I tried to read daily Psalms, so that something that I can like very short and quick to like read in the mornings. So that's how I came about reading the Bible. And I have read it. I actually went past Noah's Ark. I started reading Genesis actually, and I didn't get past Noah's Ark. And then I went into Proverbs, I think. And then, or I went into Proverbs first, and then all the way up to Noah's Ark on Genesis. And then I went back into the New Testament. And then once I finished the New Testament, then I came into reading Genesis, and I finished the whole Genesis, and I was amazed by it too. Like I just love reading every single book of the Bible. Everything I read, it always is so uplifting, so full of a lot of wisdom, a lot of great things about God and the way He works on people, the most unexplainable people. Like He makes miracles out of them. He changes people. And a lot of the time we feel and we think that we may not be worthy because of the life that we've had, but He shows to prove that He has used so many people that have lived so wrongly, and has changed those people, and has changed them to be like really good people who have shared the gospel throughout their time and were marked in the Bible. And that is just to serve an example as to why everybody should seek God's word. And I feel like it's so important to, especially to anyone who calls themselves Christians, because I feel like there's a lot of Christians out there that don't seek the word and don't read the Bible and might not feel connected, or many other religions, because I came from it too, where I was never taught to read the Bible. And I was never taught to like open up the Bible and read it on a daily basis. And a lot of times we think that just by going to church on Sundays or Wednesdays that we are good to go to heaven, and that's not the case. As you believe and read His word, like you start changing, and as you start changing, you start becoming a person more like Jesus, not like Jesus, because nobody could ever become like Jesus, but more where we start walking this walk that is more holy and more biblical and more pleasing to God's eyes. As you start reading, you start changing your way of thinking, you change of being, and by doing that, you start acting a different way. The way you act, the way you present yourself shows who you believe in. And it's just, I feel like it's just so much, so important to read God's word. There's so many things, like anything, I feel like anything, I haven't obviously read it all, but from what I have read, there's so many things that so many common questions that I feel like all human life has, and they can be answered in here. It's not going to be like, oh, what does it talk about COVID? I want to know what happens afterwards. No, it doesn't say it like that, but it shows examples of what he did in this time of the Bible and how he overcame those situations and why certain things happen. And we can relate those stories to what is happening today. And we can get peace from knowing God, who God is. So there you go. My video actually cut off again. But my whole main purpose is like, if we can share anything else, then why can't we share God's word? And I feel like a lot of us who believe in God should share more of God, so that it can reach out so many people who don't think of God, so many people who might be struggling and trying to get motivated into staying in God's word, people who might be questioning God, to reach everybody. Like, social media is so huge, and I feel like that is the greatest outlet for us to believers to share God's word, to reach an unexplainable amount of people, so that more people can come and seek God, especially during this time. I feel like this whole thing is going on so that we can help each other and point each other to seek God. And I don't want to either be pushy and be like, you need to go read the Bible and you need to read this and you need to read. No, I don't want to come in that way either. And that is why I feel like it's good for me to just slip in pictures here and there on my profile, so that whoever doesn't believe or whoever is just curious can read it, and feel some sort of inspiration or some peace out of that day that they took some time to read a passage from the Bible. Because that might be the only thing they might read ever from the Bible. And this might be the only, through a video, it might be the only time that they hear about God's word. It might be the first time. It might be their last time. It might be like, the beginning of something great. So this is why I come now, and this whole introduction, I guess, to where this whole channel is going to go about, I hope and I think. So I want to put together some videos on things that have helped me stay in the word and things that I'm learning along the way. And I want people to come in this platform to support each other in the whole process, and know that everybody who is new into reading the Bible is welcome here, and everybody who has already been reading the Bible is completely welcome as well. But to support each other more than anything, because God says to love one another and be kind to one another. So yeah, so if you want to see more faith related based videos or videos on how to read the Bible for beginners, and how to read the Bible and how to stay in the Bible, how to stay in God's word, and how to take the most out of it, then please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, and leave me a comment down below and share your process in your life, where you're at with reading the Bible. If it is your first time reading the Bible, if it's your second time, if it's your 11th year of reading the Bible, if it's whatever it is that you want to share about God's word, share that in the comments down below. I want everybody to just come together and share things off of each other, so that we can all grow together in this process, and know that you are not alone, and that we're all in this together, and then we can come through it together, with God in the center of all of this. So thank you so much for sticking around till the end, and I hope to see you guys on upcoming videos on how I share all these Bible tips, I guess. And don't be too hard on yourself when you're reading the Bible for the first time. But anyways, so yeah, just share the love of God, and I'll see you guys around.